Awesome. Welcome everybody to Hives for Heroes monthly meetup. We're here with an excellent show. We have an amazing doctor that's here. He's incredible here from Texas. So welcome to the Hives for Heroes National Network, where we're connecting people, nature, and technology to make the world a better place. Of course, stick around. Of course, you know we're around veterans and first responders all over the country, connecting in a one-to-one level, but also as a community on the back end. Mostly through our Facebook group page, but all over the place through events, resources, and scholarships that help you for your success. So stay around, stick around. We got big winners that are coming around. We got two $100 gift cards that we typically give away, and we'll be doing that at the 45 mark of the hour. So we're very excited today. I'm glad to be here personally. We've had a wonderful, wonderful week. This month has been out of this world in such great places. Please, if you find any value in our organization or these commentaries that we do on a monthly basis, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. And of course, like, comment, and share. The more interactive you are, the more feedback that we get to make this organization the best that it can possibly be. I would like to start after this first minute of introduction with a brief moment of silence for those that have fallen and to remember our friends, brothers and sisters around 9/11, September 11th, 2001. So I'll take a brief moment of silence. Thank you for joining me in honoring their memory. Of course, we never forget. It's something that got me to the Marine Corps. Never, ever forget these moments that we do. All right. As we went through this week, we had a wonderful gala that was here in the Houston, Texas area, very local. A lot of supporters came out. We had over 250 people show up to the event, which was incredible. Just here in Houston, of course, that we raised a lot of money for the organization, which will go directly back to you. One of those is the Be More Scholarship. The Be More Scholarship is open. So we have updated, shifted. As Matt said, we listened to you, and we have opened these Be More Scholarships up to any veteran and first responder with 2 or more years inside of Hives for Heroes. So we did have a moniker on there that you had to have a mentor. Of course, our mentoring is doing as best as we can, but we didn't want to hold anybody back from this amazing opportunity. So we opened that up, and now it's open to anybody in the organization, mentors and newbies, mentors included, newbies, mentors, anybody with 2 or more years of experience inside of Hives for Heroes. So please go to the website, hivesforheroes.org, click on that Be More, apply, fill out the applications, and we're looking forward to seeing all those. We also have our BU scholarships, which I think Garett will actually talk about as well. These BU scholarships are intended for you to get continued education. You can go to any master beekeeping program in the United States, put your money up front, you pass, we pay. It's literally as simple as that. We want to make sure that you have skin in the game. We don't give away things, you earn them. Just like the Marine Corps, we earn things. Just like our military career, we earn it. We go out, we get the best education that you possibly can, not directed by us, because we don't need to do that. But there are amazing institutions out there that have been around for a long time. Please go to them. They're on the website, and then get your dollars back for your continued education. Now, due to our gala that we had this week, we have had an amazing pour out of dollars. And one of those things that was brought up to us was safety equipment. So due to generous donors, you can go to the website, hivesforheroes.org, go to the shop, and we're now doing a code TY2024, thank you, 2024, and you will be getting 50% off all the suits and gloves that are on the site until they're gone. Like, to me, this is awesome. We already had them on the site. They were going like crazy, but we listen to our donors, and when they want safety, that's what we do. So they've offered 50% off any suits that go on there. They're going to donate the rest of the dollars. It is freaking incredible. So please, TY2024 for 50% off the suits and gloves. They are branded. They have Hives for Heroes monikers on them. They're triple ventilated suits. Some are full, some are pants and jackets. There's a whole lineage on there. You can check it out. I use them every day. A lot of people in the org do. They're great. So get them while you can. And then we also thank you to Vito Pharma, donated a lot of mite checks. We're getting into that season. Of course, we should be checking mites all the time. Garrett would likely get into that one as well. But right now we're getting into that stuff where you're starting to get the honey out, and now you're going to start doing other things with your hives. Free mite checks, right? They're like $25, $30, depending on where you're going. They are there for just shipping, right? We're just covering shipping costs. You get a free mite check. And then just pay for the shipping. Thank you to Vito Pharma for doing that for all the veterans and first responders that are in the network. I'm sure they will go fast. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our awesome guest speaker today, Dr. Garett Slater. I'm going to just share his resume real quick, because I can tell you I've liked this guy for a long time, and then I read his resume and I was even more impressed. So thank you, Garett, for being here. Garett Slater is an assistant professor at Texas A&M University, my alma mater, serving as the state's Apiculture Extension Specialist, where he provides vital research and extension support to beekeepers across Texas. With 18 years of experience, his current research focuses on developing cost-effective genomic tools to aid beekeepers in selecting bees with natural defenses against Varroa mites, pathogens, and other diseases. Garett earned his PhD from Purdue University in 2022, specialized in applying modern genetic tools to honeybee breeding. Prior to his PhD, he supported 30 commercial beekeepers in North Dakota and Texas through his work with the Bee Informed Partnership. Following this, he was a USDA-ARS Postdoctoral Fellow from 2022 to 2024, working at the Honeybee Breeding, Genetics, and Physiology Lab in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Garett is also a passionate educator with a long history of engaging in the beekeeping community. He has delivered webinars, presentations, and courses covering topics from fundamental scientific concepts like genetics and breeding to practical subjects such as integrating pest management, queen production, and disease control. Through these efforts, he continues to bridge the gap between practical and scientific beekeeping. Welcome, Garett. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. That was a really great introduction. Appreciate it.
Well, I'll tell you what, the title of this is Bridging the Gap, Science to Practical Beekeeping. So first off, 18 years of experience, real easy questions, right? How did you get into beekeeping, and what brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I'm from a small town in southwest North Dakota. I haven't met many people in Texas that have been to North Dakota, but if you get the chance, it's actually a really beautiful state. Just avoid the winter time. But I'm from the southwest corner, so there's not many people in the area, but there's a lot of commercial beekeepers. And so I think there's about 5 to 6 commercial beekeepers that manage somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 colonies, including my uncle. So my uncle was a commercial beekeeper. So, I remember getting to the colonies when I was a really young child, maybe about 5 or 6. So even though it says 18 years, I've been beekeeping for really my entire life, and especially from a commercial level. After that, when I turned 14, when I could get my first job, I started working with another commercial beekeeper, a 65-year-old gentleman. It was just me and him. He had 2,000 colonies, and I was kind of the young guy with the muscles, with the energy, and he was kind of the old wise man that had a lot of knowledge, but man, he knew a lot about beekeeping, and he taught me a lot about keeping bees and the process of beekeeping. And so I worked with him for really about 8 years or so. So I learned a lot about just the commercial industry and how hard the commercial industry is, and just how difficult it is to keep bees. And really my journey into research and extension started in 2006 when beekeepers are losing high amounts of colonies. So this is when we had colony collapse disorders. So beekeepers lost 50 to 80% of their colonies. And I remember getting our colonies prepared for almond pollination, and we just had piles and piles of dead bees. And I realized how tough beekeeping is and the type of support that beekeepers really need.
So, man, I'll tell you what, you already went into something that's really near and dear to our hearts. One, you had the motivation to get started early, right? You're like, hey, I want to go out there and do this because it was exposed to you, right? You're exposed to this and you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. But then a major component of our organization is mentorship. Right. Find a good mentor. Right? We talk about going to your local and state beekeeping associations and doing those things. but also we want to connect you one-to-one with a mentor in your area.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what you did at a very, teenager, right? You found a mentor. How important was that to you in your growth in beekeeping?
Oh, extremely important. So, even though I've been a beekeeper for my entire life, there's so much I didn't know about keeping bees and really the bee behavior, Varroa management, and all these different things. And so, the one thing I really appreciate about this beekeeper was he took the time to teach me. He had a business to run, but he took me out to the field. He taught me how to find a queen, right? I mean, it seems very simple, but how to find a queen, how to identify brood diseases, how to do Varroa washes, all these different things. And so he taught me so much. And what I really appreciated was him taking the time to do that and teach that. And that really motivated me to not only help him, but help other beekeepers in the region and across the country. So for me, I think mentorship is so important.
And not only to the person that he's mentoring, right? But then, as you just mentioned, that turned into serving. Now you're serving thousands of people, right?
Yep.
Easily. So when you're talking about his background, I think you mentioned he was straight commercial. Did he have any education, or was this really his experience, life experience, going through teaching you?
Yeah, so he didn't have any education. I think his highest level education was high school, and I think back in the 80s or 90s, he started working with a commercial beekeeper, and then he started kind of raising money and eventually bought that beekeeper out. And so he eventually bought that operation in the early 2000s. And so I don't know. Yeah, so he's kind of inherited it and earned money to actually buy the operation, and it took a lot of hard work, and it's almost the worst time to buy bees because that's when Varroa first introduced, and that's when beekeepers started having issues. So he didn't have an education, but he had that practical experience, he had that hard work, and he had that motivation, which I think is really important.
Yeah, hugely important in my opinion as well. You're talking about if you go out there and put in the work, especially if you have somebody to do it with. Another thing that we talk about, and you mentioned it right on the head again, is he's an older beekeeper, being able to share his experience, knowledge, and resources to a young buck, right? And then you had the shoulders and the back to go and put in the labor, but you're helping him and he's helping you, right?
Mhm.
That collaboration piece actually grew you both in areas. How did you enjoy that? Because that's one of those things you're like, man, it's so hot. Maybe not in North Dakota, but I'm guessing it's hot too. But it's hot, it's heavy, it's nasty, but you're still going out and doing it.
Yeah, so I do have one experience about how tough commercial beekeeping can be. So we had 9-man football in Texas, and so I was preparing for football practice, and it was really just me and him. And so when you're managing 2,000 colonies for 2 people, that is a ton of work. And we had this major honey production year. I think the average colony produced 250 pounds. And so I remember in the morning I'd have my morning practice before school, and then I'd go out and pull honey. So we pull, just thousands and thousands of pounds of honey. I come back and then extract the honey and then go to the night practice and then repeat the process all over again. So it's such hard work, but it's so rewarding because it's so cool to, anything with livestock, to see this time and effort you put into a colony and watch it kind of pay off and actually pull the honey and see all the effort go into something. I think that was really rewarding. Kind of back to that collaboration between me and him. He kind of had his old way of doing things, and then I kind of came with a new way of doing things. So, at the time, Marla Spivak came out with her hygienic testing. So I introduced him to do some hygienic testing and help him breed for Varroa resistance. And so, he mentored me in that way, but I was also providing some new feedback and new data that could support him. So I think there's a lot of collaboration between us.
Yeah, that's a great segue into that scientific piece because clearly you have a lot of background there. And then you moved into the educational components. What made you start those educational pieces and then move on to the path where now you're a PhD?
Yeah. So one thing I always want to do is find sustainable solutions for beekeepers. Beekeeping is really hard, and beekeepers lose so many colonies per year. And one thing that really enlightened me was when I worked with Marla Spivak for a couple of years. So after I got my master's degree from North Dakota State, I worked in her lab for 2 years. And to work with Marla, who is not only just a world-renowned scientist, but one of the best people to not only develop practical solutions for beekeepers, but find ways to connect with beekeepers and help them, whether you're a new beekeeper or whether you're experienced beekeeper. So I learned so much from her about how to to do research and extension that really supports beekeepers across the country. So, I could have my own lab where I just do research that's not helping beekeepers, but for me, that's never it's not been about. Like, I want to find ways to help beekeepers. And I think for me, this is a really perfect role. I can do my research, but I can also do education, webinars, and things to help beekeepers, not only across the state, but across the country.
Yeah, could you expand on that? Because some people might not know states are different. States operate differently. So you have master beekeeping programs, you have extensions. Sometimes they're run by the state, sometimes they're run by the extension or the universities. So like there's different ways to do this, and you kind of got to do your own research. But here in the state of Texas, can you share what your role is and then how you operate amongst the others that are supporting beekeepers here?
Sure. So this position was funded last August. And it's a brand new honeybee extension program. And one thing when I saw this job posting, I was really surprised that Texas has never had a honeybee extension program. So you think about just how big the beekeeping industry is in Texas, it's really surprising. California has one and Florida has one. So, I'm really excited to have this role because I think it's really needed in the state of Texas. And so my role is a statewide appointment. So I have a 75% extension appointment. And what extension means, it means developing educational materials, running the master beekeeping program, and doing anything to support the clubs and Hives for Heroes. And so anything I can do to support, Hives for Heroes or your local club or your mentorship, my role is to serve you as a beekeeper. And so for extension, that's really my role, is to do this across the entire state. My other 25% appointment is to do applied research. Now, there's a difference between basic research and applied research. Applied research means I'm doing stuff that's going to be applicable and practical for a beekeeper. And so, I'm located in East Texas. So one of my major focuses is, queen production, drone congregation areas, and these things that are related to breeding and genetics. But I'm also doing research that can help beekeepers. So, let's say something happens that needs immediate attention. That's my role, is to be the first person on the line to help develop solutions. So if AAA Labs gets to the United States, my role will be to support beekeepers. Or if a beekeeper has a pesticide kill, my role is to directly support beekeepers. And so, even though Texas is a big state, my role is to support the entire state. So I'll do my best, the best of my ability. But also as part of the program, we're hiring program specialists in Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas. And so those people will be hired in the next couple months, and they'll be providing extension support for those broader metropolitan areas. So if you're in Houston, Dallas, or San Antonio, we'll have people in place to help you. And so if you have any questions or any ideas, please bring them up to me, because we can develop programming, we can develop workshops, we can develop materials to really help you as a beekeeper.
Yeah, you just said a whole lot in there. I mean, that is a very good synopsis of what you're doing. And just as a recap, what I was hearing is education, right? You're going to focus on education 75% of the time. And that's going to be for all of the beekeepers throughout Texas. But of course, the Texas Master Beekeeping Program is open to anybody, right? It's a self-paced. You can go through it. There's a lot of books and education. I'm sure you're going to be revamping that, because the next thing you just said was you're going to be in charge of the Master Beekeeping Program. Right. And in the Master Beekeeping Program, again, it's part of the BU scholarships where you can come, whether it's in Texas, which I believe we have, I'm pretty sure over 1,000 members of Hives for Heroes are in Texas alone. Right. So now you're able to go to the Master Beekeeping Program. I think you only pay for the test. Is that correct?
You only pay for the test. Yep.
You only pay for the test. We're going to reimburse you on the test, and then we're going to continue to motivate you to get further and further in your education. One of our mentors is the only master craftsman, master beekeeper, right?
There's only one. There's only one person that got to that level. So
awesome.
There's more people to get there. It's a lot of work, but
it's a lot of work and a lot of time. Could you explain just a little bit? Because we did have something on Facebook earlier, which was, hey, how can I become a master beekeeper quickly? And so those are not as synonymous. Those aren't the same kind of sentence. Master beekeeper quickly isn't really a term. It takes time. Can you explain that process?
Yeah. So, I mean, it takes time with beekeeping. And, one thing I do learn from beekeepers, and this is my experience too, when I first started beekeeping, is, the first couple of years can be a struggle. And then by the third year, you feel like you're a professional, your bees are looking really great. You feel like the best beekeeper. And then you hit 4 or 5 and you lose some more colonies and you feel like you're the worst beekeeper in the world. And so there's so many things involved with beekeeper. It just takes time and training and just experience in the colony. And so even though our master beekeeping program is self-paced, we have requirements online. For me, I think the best thing and one thing I really want to add is to find a mentor, find a club, and get experience in the colonies, because you could read a bunch of books, you could watch all these YouTube videos, but the best way to learn is actually keep your own bees, find a mentor, and work in the colonies, because that's really how you learn how to do mite washes. That's how you learn how to do an integrated pest management. That's how you learn how to raise queens, for example, is to actually get in the colonies and learn that way. So one thing I like to do with the program is to kind of add that mentorship component and add that field component, because that's the best way to learn and become a better beekeeper.
Yeah, I really love your approach. Like again, bridging the gap, right? There is science that you need to learn, and it's only right to do that. You should respect, the industry, the animal, the creature enough to say, hey, I want to learn more about you. Additionally, there's no substitute to being able to go into a hive and understand that you, like for me, affect the hive, right? If I'm going, slow as smooth as fast, like we like talking about, it's a whole different feeling. If my energy's off, they know it, right? So that's more like almost like spiritual, but at the same time, the energy is there. And I just wanted to share with you some of the people that are here. We have people from California, Louisiana, North Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Minnesota, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, California again, West Virginia, Colorado, Ohio, New Hampshire, just people from all over the country. So you're speaking to an audience that's what I love about you on this side, is like it's scientific and practical. And you mentioned again, you hit it right in the head again. Find a mentor in your area, whether it's through us or through anybody in your areas. We want to do this together. Mm-hmm. So I just want to continue to emphasize that we'll try to find the best we can. But again, get connected to your local and state beekeeping associations. You are all over the place. Some states don't have them. But I will say we're going to try as hard as we can to show you a path. We can't do everything for you, but we're going to do the best we can. Matt says, and he's our state leader from North Carolina, he goes, unfortunately, bees don't read our books. Yep. So what is the biggest lesson, or one of the big lessons that you learned, because you actually started practical, then scientific, other people work opposite. It doesn't matter which way. It's just a different journey of life. What is one of the big things that you learned from the practical side, getting into science, and then kind of vice versa? Was there like something that really stuck out for you that you were like, wow, I would have never known that if?
So you mean something that I was doing research on that wasn't applicable to the applied side of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if I have a specific scenario. One thing you get into research, right? So for me, I saw beekeepers lose a lot of colonies. And so I came as this really motivated whippersnapper, and I was going to find all the solutions. And when I started looking into it, I just realized just how hard it was, right? Like I read all the literature, and then when I tried to apply that, it just wasn't as applicable as you actually think it is. And, some of these problems are more complex, but, a lot of these problems are more simple than you think they are. So I guess one experience I had was, so I worked for the Bee Informed Partnership, and I provided, I guess, direct mentorship to about 30 to 40 beekeepers in the Midwest. And so I was sort of a traveling extension agent. And it was kind of funny because I was kind of their extension agent. So I'd sample their colonies, inspect them, and provide them reports. I provide them reports to compare them to other beekeepers. I'd have therapy sessions with them when they lost a lot of colonies. So I was kind of their extension agent, their diagnostic lab, and their therapist. And it was really cool to see how these different operations operate, because some of these beekeepers are really innovative, and they came out with some really practical solutions I just would never have thought about. One example was this beekeeper developed this new treatment that he applied to the feed. And when I thought about it, I was like, wow, this is such a crazy idea. And then he fed it to the bees, and it controlled this European foul brood. And so the beekeepers come up with these really innovative ideas, and what I love to do is to talk to different beekeepers and see how they can share their ideas. One thing that really changed my mind too was there's some things that are really simple that beekeepers may not realize. So this one beekeeper in North Dakota, he was consistently losing 60% of his colonies every single year. And he was basically putting the treatments on the top of the double brood box instead of in between. And once he actually applied it per label, his colony losses dipped by 25%. And so sometimes the solution is really simple. It's just more education and reaching out to the beekeepers, because, the solution isn't always complex. There's sometimes there's a really reasonable solution. It's just the education and reaching out to beekeepers.
Yeah, that brings up a point that I've always wondered, because we actually had a hard time growing the organization to start, because it was practical beekeeping to commercial beekeeping, right? Backyard practical, commercial, and education. And all these would almost fight. And so I sat here and I was like, man, this is kind of weird, because I'm only first year, second year in. I'm like, shouldn't we be doing stuff a little bit more together, right? On the collaboration, which is why we talk about collaboration so much. But it was almost like, if you don't do this, then I don't like you. And if you don't do this, I don't like you. And I was like, why is it like this? But it seems to be that the longer that we're in here, the more commonalities we're seeing, right? So our commonality is we keep guns out of mouths through beekeeping. That's who we are as an organization. It happens in different ways, but our mission stays the same. So I don't care how you beekeep. I just want you to be okay. What kind of things have you seen in the past few years that has shown that collaboration piece, that coming together as a beekeeping community and not so much segregated?
Yeah, so one thing I love about the beekeeping community is it's such a unique and fun group. And so that's why I do encourage anybody to find a mentor or find a club, because they're really my best friends. And so I really love interacting with them. And like you mentioned, we really need to come together on some of these issues, because there really isn't one way to keep bees. I've talked to beekeepers that, keep top our colonies or treatment free, and they do all these different methods, and their colonies are alive and they're doing really well. So there really isn't one way to keep bees. What we need to do is just accept these ideas and kind of work with these beekeepers, because there's never one way to actually do it. And so, one thing I'm seeing is that these groups are coming together. I think social media does help. Facebook groups do help, because beekeepers are able to connect with each other and find these resources. And so I'm seeing these different clubs and meetings pop up, which I think is fantastic. And I think it's really great to connect with other people, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of beekeepers just want to find this companionship or want to find this friendship. And for me, one thing I love about beekeeping is not only the beekeeping part of it, but I just love the beekeepers and being part of this community, because like for me, I've been at these other stakeholder meetings, these livestock meetings, these crop meetings, and there's no other organization or other group like beekeepers. And so I just love that group. And I think it's a really great community.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The community piece is something that, especially a backyard beekeeper, for example, it's not like you beekeep every day, right? You got to do other stuff. I like to call it like the reserves, right? You have all these people that come together for the same mission, right? You're still a fighting force, but one's an electrician and one's a plumber and one's this, and those that are deployed understand this. The people that were reserve units have like the best hooches, right? They got the coolest gear and everything. They got AC while everybody else is in the dirt. It's quite cool to see people come together and like that. So we have a question. We have a comment from Colorado. Ralph, he says, I find that beekeepers are like firefighters. The dangerous ones are at 5 to 7 years where they think they know everything. At some point, they realize how much they don't know. I agree with that.
Yeah. For me, I've been beekeeping for a long time, and I'm still learning things, right? So you're always learning more.
We have some others in the comments that have their opinions, which is wonderful. This is what it's all about. Chris Dowdy asks, is it okay to overwinter bees with a screened bottom board, or should we use a solemn bottom board? We live in Kentucky and often drop to below freezing temperatures.
Yeah, so I kept bees in Indiana for about 5 to 6 years, and we always ran our bees in screen bottom boards. So we didn't have any issues, and even though it drops below temperature, it wasn't an issue at all. Maybe if you're farther north, when you have longer and extended periods of freezing temperatures, like North Dakota and Minnesota, that'd be more of a concern. But in Kentucky, you probably don't even have to wrap your colonies, and you'd be fine with the screen bottom board.
Awesome. And again, drop your questions into the chat, and we're happy to ask Garett any questions that you have. Awesome. So one of the next questions would be, like, what is your biggest learning point from, and I would like to say more practical beekeeping, but since you have both of these you've been practical beekeeping for a long time, and now you're like truly a PhD scientist. So I guess biggest takeaways from each one of those. Right. I think community is one of them. Mentorship's one of them. But are there other things that really stand out to you that you can share with our audience that says, like, you know what, this really helped me with the successes in which we consider you a success, right?
Yeah. So I think the one thing I've I've taken away from doing, my PhD and going through research is sometimes it's really tough to do really practical research because, for the grants, you require more things. And so I think a lot of beekeepers want to do some really practical stuff, but it's also hard to get funding for that. But one thing, I'm really passionate about is breeding, because when you think about the best way to address some of these reasons why colonies die is through breeding. So I've been really fortunate to be part of some of the 3 most successful breeding programs. So at the University of Minnesota, the hygienic breeding program, at Purdue, the Purdue mite biter breeding program, where we actually bred the bees to find the mites and chew their legs off. And that was part of the pole line breeding program, where we bred for VSH behavior and also honey production. We also had the Russian breeding program. And so one thing I love about breeding is there's a lot of really great questions we can address and still get funding to do these questions, but it's very practical and applied for a beekeeper, right? So we can have these really great successful breeding programs and improve the breeding programs, but it's also just a really great way to benefit beekeepers. So, it's been a learning curve to kind of bridge that gap between the basic research, which is what the universities really want, and the practical research. But I think breeding is a really great way to bridge this gap. And that's one reason I really focus on that, because that's something that I can be successful with.
Okay, so that's some awesome nerd stuff right there, right? So, of course, we have beekeepers that are in all different stages. And one of our favorites, right, is Troy, that's out here. And you just talked to him the other day, I believe. And so now he's starting to do that. He's working with several beekeepers around the United States that are very good in queens, right? I mean, it's pretty impressive. We don't need to name drop. We just want to know that these things are, when you get into a little niche and you get excited, my encouragement for anybody in the audience is to stay with it and start running with it. So what Garett just said was, oh man, I'm really excited about this. So he's going to go after it. We have other people that are in different areas, right? Maybe it's nukes, queen breeding, maybe it's honey. Doesn't really matter. But I'd like to kind of pick your brain a little bit more on that queen breeding type stuff. What does that mean? Because remember, we have an audience that is all over the place, right? Somebody might be here day one, and somebody might be here as many years of experience as you. So what is the queen breeding, and how is that bringing success? And then we have some questions as well.
Yeah. So, when you think about when you buy honeybee colonies, right, it's like any other livestock or any crop. If you do have experiences, farming or agriculture, your goal is to have the best genetics. And so if you have multiple years experience, if you're new to beekeeping, just think about what you want as a beekeeper. Like, what do you want your colonies to do? One is you want them to be resistant to Varroa. Varroa are the small parasitic mites that feed on the fat body of the bee and transmit deadly viruses. And that's one reason that, Steve mentioned monitoring your mites now. One thing we can do is actually breed for bees that can, have resistance to mites. So you can treat less, use less chemicals, and have resistance to that. Number 2 are viruses, right? So if you're a new beekeeper, one thing you'll learn is that there's a lot of viruses that can get into your colonies and cause your colonies to die. Typically, they're transmitted by Varroa, but we can actually breed for resistance to viruses. And so, the goal is really to have these genetics and have these bees that, produce more honey, that are resistant to these viruses and Varroa, and really fit the needs of beekeepers. And so one of my goals is to breed a bee that is not only produces more honey, but is resistant to Varroa and viruses. And we've done that, but how can we replicate that and have a bee that's like a Texas bee, right? I think that's sort of my dream.
That's incredible. I mean, you see like the mad scientist side, right?
Yep.
But then you think about the practicality of it. We do it in cattle all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like a normal type thing. This is what we do out at the ranch. So Ralph also asks, thanks for being here. And what do you think about UBO testing for VSH?
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with UBO testing, it's a pheromone that was developed by Kara Wagner in North Carolina. And so back in the 90s at the USDA Baton Rouge Bee Lab, where I did my postdoc, they started breeding for this bee, this trait called Varroa sensitive hygienic behavior. And essentially the bees can go into the brood and make the mites infertile. And so that's one way that we originally bred for Varroa resistance. But if you've ever selected for that trait, it's really hard because you have to take the comb out, you have to pull out 100 different cells and then measure the percentage of mites that were fertile versus infertile. So it takes a long time and it's really time consuming. And so that's one reason that VSH has been really difficult for many beekeepers to select for. It's really time consuming. Now, with the UBO testing, they actually found that the larvae emit a certain pheromone. And so that's one reason that the bees can find the mites. And so what this researcher, Kara, developed was she found that pheromone, and then she applied it on the comb, and then she saw how many of the bees were able to remove those dead brood with that pheromone. So she's basically replicating that process, but in a faster, more efficient way. Now, this is all still in kind of research stage. I haven't tested the product, so I can't say how well it works or how well it doesn't work. I know there's researchers and beekeepers trying out and comparing the VSH field test versus the UBO testing. But I'm really excited because I think it has a lot of potential, and VSH is a really great way to breed for Varroa resistance. So if it is effective, that's one way that beekeepers, whether you're a small scale beekeeper or a large scale beekeeper, can breed for resistance.
Man, that's so cool. And of course, testing is one way to do that. Some people, and there's different theories as well. Sometimes people are treaters and they'll just treat no matter what. They don't even test because that's just what they do. Other people will test. Again, if you want the mite tester from Vito Pharma, go to hivesforheroes.org under the free section. It's free. You just pay shipping. Kevin will ship it to you. I think we have another couple questions here. Actually, some cool stories on the chat. And then Ralph also has another question. I have a colony that is in the process of supersedure. Should I let them do their thing or should I intervene? He lives in northern Colorado and it is September 10th.
Yeah, so it's kind of late in the process. Sorry about the cough. Yeah, so it's kind of late in the process. So I'd probably just let it do its thing. Sorry about that. Terrible cough. Yeah, but I mean, it depends on what the queen's looking like. So making sure it is a supersedure cell, and if it is, you could probably just let it go and see how well it performs. It's kind of a tough situation this late in the season, especially in Colorado.
Yeah. So again, how are you going to get back to how are you going to breed this queen? Right. We have some amazing queen breeders all over the country. Right. You got incredible people. So as we were doing, bringing really good breeders together, right, to kind of get our minds together and figure that out. So eventually we'll have some things that are available to our members as well, so we can get them at little to no cost when is necessary, right? So how do you plan? Do you have a plan for that, or is it just kind of let's figure it out? How do you go and breed the best queen ever, right?
No, I'm really excited you brought that up. So I'm gonna nerd out here a little bit, but so one thing I tell a lot of beekeepers is honeybees are actually extraordinarily easy to breed. So the mite biters at Purdue and the pole line breeding program at Baton Rouge, we bred for Varroa resistance, and for those colonies, we haven't treated for mites for multiple years because they have these behaviors that allow them to either kill or remove mites, and so it's possible. But the issue has always been extension and getting these stocks into beekeepers' hands. And one reason that's a big issue is because, one, queens get replaced almost every 1 to 2 years. And so if you buy a pure line from pole line or VSH line, you're automatically lose those genetics that first year. Second is once your queens get replaced, they're mating in a 5-mile radius. We have no idea where they mate, so you lose genetics that way. And so the problem has never been the breeding part of it. The issue's always been extension. Now,
so can you say that again? Because some people might have missed what you just said, right? Those are two huge critical components. What were those two things again?
Which part? The extension?
You're talking about, so that first queen year, right?
Yep.
So you might not even know that that's your queen or not. And secondly, when they go out and they start mating, they're going to mate with somebody that's in your genetic pool, right? And you lose genetics immediately. So exactly. Those two things, can you clear that up again real quick?
Yeah. So, I mean, the average lifespan of a queen is about 1 to 2 years, and it's getting shorter and shorter. And so, if you're not marking your queens and you're like the previous commenter mentioned, they have supersedure, once that queen mates, you're losing, 50% of your genetics automatically. So, you're losing that trait, you're losing that genetics. And then queens go out on these mating flights. And what they do is they go to these areas known as drone congregation areas, and they have about 10,000 drones. And so queen will mate with 15 to 20 of those drones. you have no idea if they have the genetics that you want, if they're genetics of your colonies. They're probably mating with drones from your neighbor colonies or somebody else's bees. So that's one issue, is not only the queen replacement, but we have no idea, and we can't control queen mating without insemination.
Absolutely. And some of the, and I love this because the comments are going out like, hey man, I would love to get into queen breeding one day too. You know, these are things where there's so much excitement in this community, right? And then you have really, really amazing people. And now, because of the internet and things of that nature, you have access to this stuff. So I would say I would encourage you to continue whatever drives your energy, right? If you really like something, do the research, go after it. It keeps us lifelong learning, that mentality of lifelong learning. And then you get to connect with really cool other people that feel the same way. And man, you never know where you're going to go with this stuff. I mean, it's awesome to see where all these communities have gone, and people that thought they weren't going to do stuff are now like awesome queen breeders. Mm-hmm. Now, please don't think that's going to be overnight, right? You might have a faster learning curve because of mentors, but it's not going to be overnight. None of this stuff in beekeeping is overnight.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of my goals is to form these breeding networks, right? So what's really fun is beekeepers are kind of getting to that next step, and that gets into, breeding and insemination and selecting for some of these traits. And so I just love seeing all these beekeepers across the country getting into breeding, getting into selecting for Varroa sensitive hygienic behavior. So that, for me, that's really fun. And so one of my goals is, once I have this breeding program and this stock, how can we form a breeding network or form a network of beekeepers that I can distribute these queens? They can maintain, maybe select out those queens, and then distribute those to multiple beekeepers. Because for me, the problem with all these breeding programs is they've been too kind of by themselves. You need collaboration and cooperation with multiple beekeepers and multiple groups, right? Because I could breed by queens, but there's no way that my program can provide queens to beekeepers across the state, let alone the US. Yeah. And so what we need is cooperation, collaboration with beekeepers. And so that's where I kind of see, if I can train beekeepers to maintain some of these stocks and provide them some of these resistant stocks, that gives them the perfect baseline, and that can allow them to help other beekeepers in their community.
Absolutely. It's almost like you're talking to a growing collaborative network that's all across the United States that does this stuff every day that you could work with. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. Where'd that come from?
No, Troy and I have been talking about this for a while, and like Corey and a bunch of, Jose and a bunch of other ones that are just doing amazing things. And that's that collaborative nature. So of course we'd want to be able to share, the network aspect, because that's a tough part to do, right? Like you mentioned, you could do it once. How do you replicate it over time and continue to the educational component with people that are highly interested, right? That are going to stick around. Those things are super important. Hey, if y'all have liked any of this stuff that we're doing, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, share. Y'all are doing an amazing job of commenting and things, asking questions and things of that nature. Share this with somebody that you think might like this, right? This is queen breeding. This is practical. This is scientific. This is the types of stuff that I would want to listen to, the types of things that I do listen to, which is why we bring it to you. These are suggestions from you as the listener. This is why we bring you amazing people throughout the country, and we have more to come. We do this every month. We've actually been asked to do it multiple times a month because of the quality of people that are here. So please like, comment, share, subscribe so you actually know when things are coming. Also, it is that time. We have a couple more questions, but it is that time to say freedom in the comment box. So please, in the comment box, type in freedom. Do it once, please, because Neela doesn't need to be overwhelmed. Yes, there was a comment in there. She did get stung in the eye, and it was not fun. And she is recovering very, very well. But as we all know, things, especially in certain areas, are not fun. There's nothing we can do about it. But she's a champ. She finished up the gala that provided all this amazing stuff for you. And the massive amount of people that are in the organization, which is so great, which allows us to continue to give dollars back, which is also incredible. And then she got stung for it, but she doesn't quit. She keeps going. So again, we're going to have 2 $100 gift card giveaways here in a few minutes, and just do that freedom right there. So Garett, kind of following up or closing this out, what are your maybe 1 or 2 best kept secrets or maybe lessons learned that you can share with our audience? Again, full type of people, right? From day one beekeeper all the way to people that are mentors, right? And they're mentoring our newbies all over the country. What, one or two things, takeaways from your career, or maybe even lessons learned?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is be persistent. You're always going to lose colonies, even if you're a first year or if you're a 20-year beekeeper. Things happen. So don't give up. Even if you start 1 year and you lose your one colony, just keep persistent and, keep working at it, because, it does take time, and, so it just takes time. Number two is just, like we kind of mentioned, is sort of the theme of this conversation was, find a mentor, find a club, because not only is it just a great community of people and beekeepers and friends, it's also a great way to learn more about beekeeping. And so, for me, I can talk about, Varroa management. Obviously, that's really important, monitoring your mites and treating. But, for me, it's just be persistent and keep working at it, and, find mentor and find support, because there are people out there that can help you. And I think this organization has done a really great job of finding mentors. But just find a club and find a mentor, but that's the best way to learn and become a better beekeeper.
Absolutely. Charlie will tell you, we need more mentors. The world needs more mentors. It's not just Hives for Heroes. It's communities all over the country. It sometimes is almost a fight to get mentors. So here we are creating our own, right? We have a lot of newbies in the organization. Please stay with it, stick with it, utilize the resources and the education for you to become a better beekeeper and a better person. And then come along with us. Get your second year, keep growing. And then in that third year, pay it forward and teach somebody else, right? Garett's talking about this right now, even with queen breeding. It's super important to be able to bring this on, take it on your shoulders just a little bit. Many hands make light work. And then we go and share it with one other person. Exponentially, it's just like a hive. You just continue to grow by doing the right things. We got a last question for you, Garett. If you shipped mated queens, you could avoid virgin queens going to DCA and watering down the genetics, wouldn't you? I don't know how to actually say that. So if you ship mated queens, could you avoid virgin queens going to DCA and watering down the genetics?
So you're saying if you ship away for mated queens, because if you're buying mated queens, they're mating in the DCAs in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you're saying if you buy those mated queens and shipping them, you'd avoid
watering down the genetics.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, potentially. But I guess what you want almost is those local genetics. And so, like for me, I always do recommend purchasing virgin queens, because those ones mate better and they tend to live longer. So, I don't know. If possible, I would probably buy. Find a beekeeper, find a queen producer in your area that's been breeding. Ask them questions, and that's probably the best approach.
Yeah, and that'll again go back to our core values, right? Connecting to people in your local area, building relationships, right? All these things happen for a reason. We're very intentional with the core values. It looks really simple, but the thing is, it makes such a difference. Mm-hmm. If you know somebody in your area, you know the temperament of the queen. We talk about this oftentimes, considering we're on corporate campuses and places that can be, a little bit more high risk. And I mean, that's just a fact. I love these questions. Thank you all so much. We also have somebody that says, I have one mentee. I can have more, Charlie. So we want to thank you, Garett. Thank you so much for being here. I just can't wait to see where you're going, what you're doing, how we can support that with the network and the energy that we have, because I think there's massive possibility on the end there. I know you're already working with some of us. It's not me necessarily, but that's the good thing about this org. Everybody's doing their specialty and they get to have fun doing it. And that passion continues to roll. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you very much. And, just if you're a beekeeper in Texas or across the country, I am a resource. And if you ever need support or information from me, I'm here. So maybe Steve will share my information, but please reach out to me. I'm happy to help out any way possible. So that's my role.
Share your contact real quick. That's a perfect thing. Yeah, share your contact. Perfect. Texas A&M Extension.
And so, I mean, that's one reason I love my role as extension is working with beekeepers. There's nothing better about a people-based business, right? Is working with people and trying to help beekeepers out. So if you need any support, whether you're in Texas or outside of Texas, that's what I'm here for. So I can help find a diagnostic lab or can help, any way possible. So please let me know.
You're incredible, brother. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you for supporting Hives for Heroes. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Awesome, man. If you don't like that type of content, I don't know. It just blows my mind. But please subscribe, like, comment, share with us. Go on to Google and give us a review or something like that, so people can have more trust and confidence in this. What a great individual. So thank him for being here. We have a couple of other comments that I just can't get through over here because Janetta Reston just said, my mentor at Craig is the bomb. All my successes is due to him and all his knowledge and time. I would argue with you that it's also due to your time and your commitment and the things that you've done in the area. And guess what? You are one of the winners and recipients of our $100 gift card giveaway. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. And the other one is somebody that will show on screen very quickly. Mr. Matt Booth got a $100 gift card for tonight's event. Wow. Can you believe that? So thank you all for being here. Let's see. Contact information will come, Ralph. We'll send out in the newsletter, actually, right? We can put that in the newsletter. Newsletter will be coming out soon as well. And for now, we have about 9 minutes left, and I'd like to get a wonderful update from our National Connections Director, Mr. Charles McMaster.
Thanks, Steve. And then I'm going to say, thanks, CAT staff. Having one mentor, you can do more. Two things. Your handle does not translate over to our CRM process, so I don't know who you are, so I can get you more newbies. And that's the deal. If you can handle more than one newbie, you're a mentor. Go for it. Let us know. connect@highsforheroes.org. Pop that email to me. I'll change the system, my records around a little bit, and then I'll dive back in and find the newbie for you to spend some more time with. That goes for anybody. connect@highsforheroes.org. Telling me as a mentor you can handle more than one, you can handle less than three or less. Let me know what you want to do. We'll get those newbies in your back pocket and you can start working them. Some folks have said, hey, what do I do between now and then? It's quiet time. Well, not everywhere. And even though it's quiet time, give those newbies a book, send them to school, let them go to a course somewhere, somehow, and let them get there. Walk them through your bee yard between now, March, February, whenever, so they get an idea of what you're doing, not just now, but what you plan on doing. Tell them what your plans are. Let's get in there and go. Total operations right now, Hives for Heroes, we have got over 7,800 beekeepers in our shops. Happy to get there. I mean, it's been a fun row. When I got here 3 years ago, we were just cracking 800. So those 3 years, we've grown over that much. We're banging it on all cylinders, which is great. I like it. Everybody's having a good time. Well, most everybody's having a good time except Neela. But, that's the way things happen. Thanks.
Oh, that's awesome, Charlie. Thank you so much for that. Again, not only you mentors that might like to have one or two others, we'd like to keep it at 3 just so that you're not overwhelmed, and then you still have personal relationships with those that are in your area, because it can be overwhelming, right? You're going to have a one-to-one relationship, but that means that you can schedule your own time. You don't have to go through us. We're not going to micromanage you, etc. So those are good things. Additionally, if you are a newbie in your second year or like rolling in, remember, we need mentors. So if you have the ability or confidence to do so, reach out to Charlie. He'll kind of interview you. It's not too much pressure, but he will kind of interview you to see if you're on to that next level that we can utilize you in those areas. And there's a good chance that you will, right? And that's good. But we definitely need the opportunity to continue having mentors in the area. So in our last few minutes, we're going to keep taking questions. So if you have any other questions, please put them in the chat. Nathan says, I'll stick with my one for now. Perfect. That's awesome. There is no pressure to this. This is just opportunity, right? We're just looking for the opportunity for everybody to serve. If it's 1, if it's 3, awesome. Nothing wrong with that, okay? Here in Texas, we got a lot of things going on, but we'll switch it over to, we got Craig Midget and Matt Booth on here. So Matt, you got your screen going. We'll go with you first.
I appreciate it, Steve. And like I put in the comments, I'll be passing that gift card to help some of my mentees keep improving. So thank you guys. Right now, we're starting our fall flow, finishing up mite treatments, getting our bee yards ready for upcoming winter. We'll see how it ends up being. So, and then just preparing for a couple of events that I'll be at, and I'll be posting those on the Facebook page to share. One just kind of heads up is just a big veterans group in October, and then I'll give a little hint that we will be releasing a mead here in North Carolina that's partnered with Hives for Heroes in a local meadery that we'll have. So that's upcoming, and that'll be Veterans Day weekend here.
That's so awesome. Man, the things that are going on around the United States are pretty incredible. You have the mead there. We have the Wildflower mead. If you're interested in that, it's Wildflower. It's Barrels for Heroes. That they sell out pretty quickly. And then Megaton just did our other, I think our second or third beer, I can't remember, but it's called Haze for Heroes, and it's available as well, but only here in Houston, Texas. And it's really awesome, right? So a lot of different collaborations. If you don't think you can contribute, I guarantee you can. You bring your skills, talents, and knowledge, and we'll figure out a spot for you to be successful. It's not just about beekeeping. It's about being, a whole person. Craig, are you available? There he is. Can you hear us, Craig? All right, he might be having some connection issues, and that's okay. We're about at 4 minutes, so I want to cover a couple of other things, right? This is Hives for Heroes, obviously connecting people, nature, and technology to make the world a better place. Additionally, we're trying to connect you to a mentor in your local area. Please do not feel as though you are not good enough or we have failed you if that is not the case. Okay, this is an epic adventure trying to figure this out. The ones that do get matched have had amazing experiences, and we're trying to do that for every single person in the org. All right, Charlie works his butt off. We have very few mentors that actually are not matched, and typically it's because they're out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, and that's kind of how this works, right? And the larger the networks gets, the more connections we have. It's just how it works. So to mitigate that, what do? We ask you to join the network, right? Step one is joining Hives for Heroes, getting on the Facebook group page. You have instant mentorship right there with tons of people that actually care about you every single day, right? Then join your local beekeeping association, right? If you don't like them, that's okay. Just try it out. There's sometimes, see, everybody's laughing here because we know it. Sometimes we don't play well with others. Just try it. I guarantee you wear a Hives for Heroes shirt in there. Somebody's going to go, hey, I know that org. I want to hang out with you too. You might get a different approach. Honestly, it's happened a lot. So join your local association. Join your state association if possible. You'll see a lot of us out there, right? Charlie's traveling all the time. Our state leaders are at those events. You'll see a friendly face. It's a beautiful thing to have. And then maybe you like a national beekeeping association that fits in your areas, whether it's ABF, whether it's, there's a lot of them actually that's on the resource page, but maybe American Honey Producers or something like that. You'll find kind of a niche in the area in which you like. And then step 3 would be to get into an education that you might like, right? You have UFF, that's U of F that's online. It's on the website as well. We do all the reimbursals for all the master beekeeping programs. And I think we're bringing on Colorado here pretty quickly too, after talking to Ralph. So you can go to these organizations, do a little bit of research. If you like commercial type stuff, University of Montana. If you like online stuff, U of F. Troy's going through that right now as well. Lots of opportunities for you to be successful. So the point of this organization is to be connected. Connect, right? Connect on Facebook, connect in your local area, connect in your state, connect in your nation, connect to education. All this is connection pieces. And then once you get to that stage and you're more comfortable, you're going through the education, we're going to come back and refund that. So it's not any dollars out of your pocket. We're going to be giving you discounts to this organization. Somebody said military discounts. We're working on that right now with organizations all over the country. So we have a lot of things going on. Stay connected, stay involved. That's the most critical piece that we could possibly communicate. It's not just about the mentorship. It's the journey. The journey is the goal, as we put out there on Facebook. The journey is the goal. The mentorship isn't even an end. It's really only a beginning as well. But all these things in the middle are like a choose your own path kind of book. Remember when you were a kid, like you choose your own adventure? That's what Hives for Heroes is, because we're not here to hold your hand the entire way. We're here to empower you and provide opportunities for you to be successful. So that being said, we have a couple of other things. I'm going to go backwards on everything that I said earlier. We have free mite checks that are out there. Okay. So Vito Pharma donated a bunch of mite checks. Please go to the website. They're free. You just pay shipping. That is for you and your success. You can't get it any cheaper. I can tell you that. So just go to the website and find that. Additionally, if you need suits, if you need protective gear, maybe your stuff is already getting nasty. I mean, my stuff gets pretty nasty. I can tell you that. Maybe you need a new one, or maybe it's a gift for somebody for Christmas. I don't care what it is. It's 50% off. So you go to the website, 50% off. Thank you, 2024. That means thank you to our donors in 2024, because they're the ones that are providing that 50%. So thank you to our donors. TY2024 suits and gloves. They're all monikered. They got Hives for Heroes logos all over them and everything. Pretty freaking cool. Then again, Be More and BU scholarships. Check them out. They're incredible. We thank you for being here. We thank you for all those that collaborate with us and believe in this mission. We thank you for the schools that are involved in this, for the donors that are involved in this as well. And please, the easiest thing you can do, if you have any value in this, is just to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Be involved. Be involved in the organization. I guarantee you, you will get whatever you put into it. And our next meetup is going to be October 8th. We have another awesome speaker. We have another awesome one lined up in November. So October 8th, 1900 Central Standard Time. If you subscribe to the channel and press the little alarm button, it'll actually tell you when it's coming on. And also Matt does a great job, and we try to go and put it on Facebook and Instagram and all that type of stuff so that you can see it at a different time. Also, remember that a newsletter will be coming out with a lot of this information in here too. So you don't have to remember it all. We'll get it to you. So as always, thank you guys and girls so much for being here. Thank you for your service. Whether you're a military service member, thank you for your service. Or you're a mentor in this organization, thank you for your service. We are Hives for Heroes, connecting veterans and first responders to beekeepers all over the country, right? We are connecting people, nature, and technology to make this world a better place. Thank you all for being here tonight, and we wish you well.